out for Chris to join in the participants.
Hang on. Okay, George, go ahead.
Good day. Welcome. Today is February 6th. Welcome to the virtual program of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users. I'm your host and also the Vice President of the Suburban Apple User Group, George Brooks. Today, joining us, we will have our President, Dave Ginsburg, talking about CES and iOS updates. We will also have Chris Lawley talking about how to get more with your iPad. Don't forget to stick around for our afterglow. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We are the Suburban Apple Users. We're a group of over 100 Apple users in the Chicagoland area, and we're expanding throughout the globe, of course, due to, things outside of our control. We exchange best practices, ideas, tips, offer each other help, and also to keep ourselves up to date on technology. Also, we talk about how to use our technology dollars and stretch them far and wide. Please don't hesitate to enjoy and to join us at mysau.org. Just want to let everyone know, please keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking. If you have a question, please submit it in the chat and we'll call on you appropriately when time for you to unmute to ask your question. Today, I want to bring up something. Today, in case you noticed my background, I want to talk about Black History Month, also known as African American History Month. There have been a lot of things that have happened in the past year regarding Black Lives Matter and also racial injustice. One thing I want to talk about is Apple has been one of those technology companies that has stepped up and made a lot of strides, not just in the African American community, but communities of color or marginalized individuals. One of the things that Apple has done is just recently, they made a large contribution to starting a technology center to basically help bridge that racial diversity that's gone on in the technology industry. Throughout the month of February, with the Black History Month, throughout all of Apple's platforms, you will see various items. And what I mean by various items, you will see, for instance, there's a new Apple Watch wallpapers. There's also different podcasts that are being highlighted. Some of these items, I will actually put links in the chat and so that we can further discuss them online in our community. Because Apple, when you look at a technology company, Apple's always been one of those companies that has been in the forefront of actually assisting communities, no matter what it is. So I just wanted to bring that up because they are just definitely really out there. Okay, now at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Dave. Dave is our president. He is a technology professional for over 20 years in the IT space. He is one of those individuals that knows PCs as well as Mac and mobile devices, dealing with those PCs in his everyday life. But we know his heart really is into the Mac and Apple space. He also has a podcast himself, In Touch with iOS, and he is a guest host or guest on a lot of different podcasts throughout the podcast sphere. We are fortunate to actually have him. At this time, I want to introduce Dave to talk about iOS updates and CES. Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks, George. I'm glad to be here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the CES 2021 items that caught my eye. The CES, if anybody isn't aware of, is also known as the Consumer Electronics Show, and it was an unprecedented event that made it very different, a very different atmosphere, because they're used to being able to go there in person, and this year, of course, like we're doing here, it was virtual. So it was quite a different event, but it was enjoyable, but challenging because so used to going up and talking to people and being able to interview people, so it was a little more limited. But for the most part, we got some good stuff out of it. So I've got about four or so products. See where I'm at here with time here, and then I'm going to talk just a few iOS updates, and I squeezed in a couple of tips as well here. So The first product I wanted to talk about is actually by a company called SCAU. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the company SCAU. They make charging, and they make car mounts, that kind of fun stuff. The first one that I caught my eye was, in fact, I own this product. I actually bought it last year, but they did come up with a new black colored version. This is called the Base Link, and this here is the actual unit that I have here. And I've actually reduced the size of this because actually this is modular, that you can pull it apart, and then it comes into pieces here. And this also has the fourth piece here, which is also a stand that stands up all your iPad. So basically, you have the iPad, you have the Apple Watch that charges here. This flips up, and then it'll have a charge, and then you have the wireless Qi charging base for your iPhone, and it all goes into one group here. The nice thing about having this piece here also has ports here as well. It's got the power delivery charging by USB-C. Then you have two USB-A ports that you can plug in other devices. So this is a pretty full featured charging base. Let me show you. I'm going to share my screen here, and I'll show you what the new one there that they just introduced. Bring it up here. There we go. And everybody should be able to see that. Let me make it a little bigger. And this is the actual. They changed the color here. And now they have available in black as well as the white. And this here is this is how it's laid out when you have it laid out flat. And if you have all three devices available to you, and then here's what it looks like if you put your iPad in, as well as all the charging there. And this is the white modular colored base unit. So I find it to be a pretty cool little device. It is a little pricey, but for having something that's laid out in a way that's charging all three of your devices, it's not bad. It is sold at the Apple stores. It's $169 for the base, and you could buy other modular device. You can add on to it as well if you wanted to add any other thing onto this. But this is pretty full featured. So they came out with a pretty cool little base here. So. And then the second one I have right behind here, this actually is just this is just actually still waiting to be released. This is the Magic Mount MSC, and this is the car mount kit for the Apple MagSafe charger. If anybody can see my camera here, though, that's the MagSafe chargers. That's the little disc that's here. That's the disc that will mount into this actual holder, and then you plug it in, as you see in the cigarette lighter adapter that's in this car as displayed. And it's got two different types of mounts, and you can get multiple types of ways, like whether it's in the cup holder, or I believe it also has the clip-on, so you can clip it onto your vent, as well as it has the window mount as well. They're saying the pricing on this is going to be around I think about $30 for this mount, which is not too bad considering. But of course, you got to buy this too, which is another $70. But for those of you who have the iPhone 12 and have which has MagSafe charging, of course, it's a nice unit. And then of course you get full 20 watts of power delivery, so it's going to charge while you're in the car. So. And SCAU makes some really cool mounts. I mean, they've got a lot of great devices here. I can even I don't think they have anything else in here. Here's the Magic Grip that they've got too. So they're very well known for having very high quality products when it comes to charging devices on your phone. So so that is that. So next one I want to show you. Let me bring up my screen here. This is a microphone. This is a wireless microphone. I actually interviewed these folks. It's made by a company called Amperage, and Amperage makes wireless phones and wireless microphones as well as wired microphones. This device is called the Mighty Mic Pro, and what it is, it's a wireless Bluetooth microphone that will connect directly to your iPhone and allows you to be able to record, or actually you could use it for, if you wanted to use it for speaking as well. But as you see, a lot of the folks will use this for interviews and for those kind of things here. Let me bring up the brochure here, so this kind of shows a little more. So it pairs directly to your iPhone or tablet. It works with iPad as well. It's the latest Bluetooth, and it gives you up to 30-foot range. So you actually could be up to 30 feet away, and let's say somebody's trying to record a video from their iPhone, and it's basically a wireless Bluetooth mic, which is great. It does support the 3.5-inch and smartphone microphone. So if you wanted to plug in a microphone into it and to extend to it, so you could have the lapel on one part, and then you could have another mic if you were doing another interview, you could do that as well. As you can see here, they've got other stuff here that they sell as well, and it is a wireless charging. So you would charge it. It's got the built-in battery, and it's got sensitivity. So as I interviewed these folks, the sound was pretty good quality. He was using it during the time I spoke to him. So hoping to get a review unit to try it and report back as far as that goes. It relates to this. So do we have any questions so far out there?
Hey, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a question real quickly. The
Yes, sir.
car mounts that you're talking about with SCAU, do you know, are they limited?
Yep.
Do they work with the 11 and any induction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they do. Yeah, like this Magic Grip here does have the has the Qi charging built into it, so it's a standard Qi charging.
Okay.
But even if you have the 11, the MagSafe does work with the 11 because it's still Qi charging. It just doesn't attach to it.
Doesn't connect.
Like,
it doesn't magnet. Okay.
It doesn't magnetically connect to the like it does with the 12, right?
And then can you go back to the tray that you did it at first with the white?
Yeah.
I have
the base link here.
Yeah, because you said it was modular. I'm curious though, with the MagSafe portion, is that going to create, because of the magnetism? Is that going to create the problem where when you lift off the phone, it's going to bring the cradle with it because the magnet?
No, it's not that. No, this
it's not that strong. Okay, that's because I know we were having a problem with.
Is this just Qi charging? It's not MagSafe.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
If you can see my camera here, I got the base here. This just shows the ring where it lays down, because the phone just lays flat onto this base. So yeah, okay. It won't. No, yeah, you're right. That's actually a good point. I'll bring that up. If anybody heard about that, you got real careful about your iPhone 12s, and if you have a pacemaker, you don't want it. You need to keep it at least 6 inches away from your pacemaker, otherwise it's going to cause problems with your pacemaker. And I guess Apple is looking into that as far as that goes. So. But yeah, that's a good point that you brought that up. I appreciate that. So
yeah, there was a question about the cost and the web link for the Mighty Mic.
The Mighty Mic is at if you want to put it in the notes for me, it's ampridge.com, ampridge.com. The microphone is about $80, which really is not too terribly expensive considering for a microphone like this. And I haven't, other than listening to it from when I interviewed, actually he was one of the CEO or one of the lead guys of this company. It did sound very good. So I was pretty impressed. So, all right, let me move on to Belkin. Now Belkin came out with a new pair of true wireless earbuds. And they look very similar to the AirPods, but a little less expensive, as you can see here in the price. This is Belkin's website. Let me pull up my information here. I was not able to listen to them, but I've heard really good things about this product. And from what I did when I interviewed the folks from Belkin, they did add an enhanced listening experience with custom built-in drivers. It has 8 hours of nonstop playtime, which is pretty good. I think that beats the AirPods Pro a little bit. I mean, I probably get about between 5 and 7 hours on the AirPods Pro, depending on how much I use it. It does, of course, does Qi charging, wireless charging, and gives you additional 20 hours of charge within the case. It did add device location features. So this is actually the very first non-Apple product that I'm aware of that has compatibility to Apple's Find My. So just like AirPods and all of our other devices have, it does have the capability of being able to be found doing that. They put some really good sound into it. It's a real powerful bass and a real good exceptional clarity. And the Bluetooth has got the latest technology for Bluetooth, so that's a really good thing. So, I've like I said, I've heard nothing but really good things about it, and they just introduced this, and the price is not too shabby. I think it's still on its way. I'm not sure. Apple may be selling this as well if you go to the Apple Store, but that's available as well. So that is the Belkin sound form. So a couple things I'll talk. I'm sorry, you have a question?
Is there noise cancellation?
Yes, there is.
And it's
okay. Let me make sure before I give you that accurate answer there, Frank.
Okay.
It may not. I don't see it mentioned. So you know what? No, it does not have noise canceling.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might not be. I mean. Right now, I'm using my AirPods, and a lot of times I use it in transparency mode because I want to be able to hear myself as well as I do it. But I kind of agree. If it's something that's important to you with noise canceling, you probably would want you would probably would want that, because I was when I was out doing the snow last weekend, and I put the AirPods on. It got the snow blowers really loud, and I put it on noise canceling. It actually worked really well because I could hear what I was listening to very clearly, and it really shut out the snowblower, which of course snowblower can be pretty loud. So I agree with you. Yeah, it might not be something that would be of interest to you. So we didn't have that. All right, let me talk about one other Belkin product here. This is a new stand that they introduced. They actually have two of them. This is the one here that's got the stand. This is all MagSafe. This is all the new MagSafe products. This has the MagSafe charging for the iPhone, and for the Apple Watch. Of course, it's got the charger, and then of course it'll also charge your AirPods Pro all in one place. So if you've got all three devices, this is the item for you, especially with MagSafe. And it's kind of cool the way it magnetically is strong enough to keep the phone there and charge. And it's a nice little base there. So this little pricey, $149.99 for that, but it might be something that you might like, and it's stylish as well, as you can see the way it's laid out, and magnetic alignment works real well. But then they also came out with a 2-in-1. This was the new introduction product. It's still waiting to be introduced. Not all of us have Apple Watches, so this might be a nice stand to have, sitting bedside or whatever, for $99.99. And this charges both the iPhone and the AirPods Pro. So that was one of the other ones that was available. So, all right. And
hey, Dave, really quickly.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Before you go too far, Frank had a question about the
yes, go ahead, Frank.
The earphones that you were talking about.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Frank.
That's Frank Petrie.
Oh, Frank Petrie. Okay. Yeah, there's two Franks here. Don't forget, Davis.
Sorry.
Frank Petrie, Frank. Go ahead and unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
You're muted.
Yeah, I was wondering if they work with the Dolby or Dolby Atmos at all.
There was no mention of that, Frank. That I saw as far as that goes. For the price, you're probably going for having that as well as that. Yeah, there was no mention that was going to be that's on there. No.
Okay.
So it just has the. It's got a Qualcomm Bluetooth connector, and it's got clear call, but I don't see any mention of anything with Dolby. And again, these are not going to be available until probably March or April. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right,
they're still not available. So, and then the last CES product I wanted to talk about. I think I got some good time here. I've mentioned this a couple times already. I mentioned this during the iPhone SIG, but I thought it'd be for those who didn't attend. Wouldn't mind hearing about it. SPEC makes some great cases, and they make great accessories for your iPhone. They came out with this product here. This is the Quick Clip, the Click Flip, excuse me. Presidio is their brand, and this is made by SPEC. And what it is it's an actual case that protects your AirPods, and this is it here. And if you flip it up, you see how it flips up. The case is in there, and it's very easy to protect it. But if you're noticing here, you'll see that how it's got a little case that's inside here. See how it's sliding in and out here, and then it has a clip in the front here that clips it, locks it in place. Then the battery light is visible, so it'll tell you whether or not it's if it's there or not. And it's got the little compartment down here at the bottom, so you can do a wired charge, as well as it is compatible with Qi charging, so you can put it on for wireless. But the neat thing about it is it's got this little clip here that you can clip onto your belt or in your backpack, and it protects the case, because these cases, especially if you're spending $200 for a pair of AirPods Pro, it does protect it. But as well as it does, like I said, provides the Qi charging for it. So not a bad little case. It's $39.95 through spec products.
Okay. Even I
Go ahead.
agree.
Got questions?
Yep. Even I agree. That's not a bad thing. Because the one thing about it is you get the little clip, and it's a case. If, believe it or not, it's a case for the case. But I mean, $30
Right.
and having that clip on
$40.
It's really worth it, because how many times I don't have the AirPods myself, but I know everybody I know that has them is always losing them. So or losing the case is for, oh, where's my case? Or
Right.
so.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, this alone, having this little clip, and it just bends out. It's hard to see here. It bends out and clips right onto your what I do is I in my backpack, I have a little loop in my front of my backpack. I just clip it right in here, because I'm always putting it in a compartment or down below in the bag. And then I'm digging down to try to find it. So easy to grab here. So
Dave, what's the material?
Good question. Let me see if it has it on the spec here. It says it's IP5X rated for 360 dust protection. It doesn't give a specific as far as what the product. It's got 4 feet of drop protection as well.
It has to be some type of plastic, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is it feels like a plastic. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't give any specifics. It might be on their website, specproducts.com. I can look at that just for the sake of time, but that's a good question. Thank you, Frank.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'll briefly talk about this. This is a case that I always like the spec cases. This is the clear case, they call it. It's a Presidio Perfect Clear. This one's for the 12 Pro Max. It does have MagSafe compatibility, but I still find that you have to have a true MagSafe case that's got the built-in ring that's in here for it to stick to the case. So that's kind of a downfall to it if you have a 12. But for the most part, these are great cases, and the pricing on these are like around $40 as well for the spec. So it is a really good case here. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about some iOS changes. Let me go to see if I can find my link here. I'll just go click it again here.
Hey, Dave, do you have a couple seconds for questions while you're doing that?
Oh, yes. If there's questions, yes, please. Sure. Go ahead.
Frank Petrie, did we answer your question about the fastening to the top of the body?
Yeah, what I wanted to ask is I bought some third-party cover for my Pros, and the top part is separate from the body part, and the top keeps coming off. And I was wondering if the ones that you were just showing are fastened to the body in the back.
So you're talking about as far as
Yeah.
So as you see here, when it clips in place here, you just push this, you pull this clip up.
Okay.
Make sure you pull this clip up, and then it opens the case, as you see here. Okay. And then this
So
also
it's not two separate parts.
No, well, it is actually two pieces. If you can see the way the case is moving right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's hard to show.
Turn it around.
Is the blue?
Oh, there we go.
See, that's what I was looking for, to see if, see it? See, now
Yeah,
my
it's
top
it's
keeps
not-
coming off mine, and I don't know how to keep it on.
It's two pieces. When you assemble it, you actually slide the case into here,
Right.
and then put it up in the top. So it is actually two pieces.
Because I've noticed with my third party one that the top thing, like every third or fourth time I flip it open, it goes flying off and I got to go hunting for it.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
no,
just
this is,
curious if anybody came up with an idea.
this has not come apart at all because it's very solid.
Oh, okay. And that's spec.
Spec products. Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Thanks.
Duct tape.
Duct tape. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
So let me,
Dave,
more
one
questions?
last thing.
Yes, please.
Joseph, can you unmute your microphone and ask your question about just clarifying your questions?
Oh, okay. I see. Hey, Joe.
Did you read it, Dave?
You said, so Qi is QI. That's what I meant. It's
Oh, okay.
charging. That's the technology that and like this is a Qi charging device. So anything that wirelessly charges it's QI is the letters, but it's pronounced Qi. Okay.
Dave,
All
I
right,
have a
thank
question
you.
about Qi. How fast is it?
It depends on the device and how it's plugged in.
Sure.
It's usually 15 watts. Sometimes it's 20, depending on the power delivery that's provided to the charger.
So the speeds are equal to wired charging?
Very close. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done wireless charging on that base link, and it charges pretty fast. Well, although I got the 12 Pro Max, I have to tell you the battery life on this phone is phenomenal. I mean, I was using a lot yesterday, and when I went to bed last night, I looked at it. I still had 60% left. So, I mean, the battery life on the iPhone is the 12 Pro, the 12. All the Pros are, especially the 12 Pro Max, is really good. So, okay, a little bit of time left. I have here. How much time do I have, guys? Dave's George. How much time do I have left?
Yeah, depending on how many questions we have, we've got about a little bit more than 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Great. Thank you. All right. So real brief, I'm going to talk just briefly about this new feature. Again, I talked about this at the iPhone SIG, but I wanted to mention it again. I think this is going to be a neat thing. If anybody doesn't know, iOS 14.5 is now beta 1 that just got released. It's out in the public beta as well as with developers. And there's a number of additional things, including the privacy stuff I'm not going to go into again. But the neatest thing I think I really like about this is they added this new feature with your Apple Watch, which will be watchOS 7.4. When that's in release, this is also in beta, is also going to allow you to be able to unlock your iPhone with Face ID if you have a mask on. I mean, that was always a big pain because every time you go look, you have to put the code in. Well, now what's going to happen is as soon as you bring up your phone up to your face and you have your mask on, it'll automatically see that, and then it'll revert to the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch, in turn, because it's synced to your iPhone, is going to unlock the phone for you. So they finally have added that new feature in here, and that's where it looks like here when you turn it on how do you turn the Apple Watch on in Face ID and the passcode in 14.5. Again, it's beta 1, so we still got probably I would anticipate at least a month or so before that's even close to being released. It's 14.4, of course. I hope everybody got 14.4 installed, as I've been stressing a lot on my podcast and everywhere else. That you got to make sure you have 14.4 installed on your iPhones. Of course, it's iPhone 6s and higher. Because there was 3 pretty serious security vulnerabilities that were out there. So make sure if you haven't done it right, do 14.4. Okay.
Hey Dave, what versions of Apple Watch are supported? Do we know?
As far as watches, okay. Any watch other than probably like the series, anything below Series 3, it's not supported. Because watchOS 7 the latest version 7 is not supported. And I think anything older than Watch Series 3. You have the Series 0, Series 1, and Series 2. Those have been end of life for a while. You have Series 3, and you have the SE, and then you have 4, 5, and 6 of the series. Those are all supported. Okay. Any other questions we have out there?
None at this time.
All right. All right. Let me share my iPhone here real quick, and stop sharing this. And I'm going to share my iPhone. Okay, give me a moment here. Screen sharing. There we go. And we'll stop.
Okay,
Give me a
while
moment
Dave is
here.
getting the
Go ahead.
screen
Yeah, go ahead.
together-
I got to bring this up here. Thank you.
That's okay, no problem. While Dave is getting the screen together, just want to let everybody know, don't forget we have the afterglow at the end of the meeting. So if you have any questions that are not pertaining to the subject matter, that's the time that you want to bring those up. So don't hesitate, because things come up between meetings, and that's the time where it's essentially you can ask any question regarding anything Apple or technology related, and you have everybody's attention. So look forward to seeing you at the afterglow later.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. All right, it's not cooperating. Hold on, guys.
See, we can help Dave in the afterglow about how to get screen sharing together. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not cooperating. I know how to do it.
Okay. I couldn't hesitate, Dave. You know.
How do you do it?
Well, there's two ways of doing it. Actually, Zoom has a built-in screen sharing, which you should be able to see that now, right? Unless I'm not sharing, which I'm not. Hold on. Now you should. Hold on. There we go.
You're amongst friends there. There we go, Dave. We can see it now.
Yes. Okay. So what I was going to talk about is that there's a new thing in Bluetooth and it won't come up in here because I don't have it connected here. But what you can do is you actually can go into a device here. So let's say I have this headband. I'm going to type a little I next to it here. See this out here? See this up here? It's got a device type. Now, in most cases, in the past, there was always like a challenge. Some things would not come up properly when you would go in here, and whether it's a headphone. And if you tap this device, see how it's broken down by the different type of device that it is. In this case, it knew it was a headphone, so it automatically picked it. But it also gives the options here, whether it's a hearing aid, a speaker, or even car stereo. Now, let me see if you can see my my car. Yeah, here's the Uconnect in my car here. Yeah, so it knew right away that that's a car stereo. So, but there is a way here that you actually can go in here and change that if it isn't identifying it properly. So this is a new thing that they had added in 14.3, I believe, that gives you the option to add that too. So, as well as like when a device is brought up, you actually don't do that. As well, you can bring up a device and you could rename the device if you're not happy with the name of it. So like in this case, this headband I have, this is a headband that I use when I sleep. It's one of those headband Bluetooth devices that goes on. I wear it. It's wireless, which is great. And the name of it's like TTTWF or whatever, some weird name. So I went in and actually was able to rename it to what I wanted when it came to that. So, and then my last tip here I wanted to talk about here is in accessibility here. And let's go into accessibility here. And there is a setting that's, let's see. I remember that it was sound recognition. Here it is. So if you see here, there's a sound recognition setting in accessibility under hearing. You could turn this on, and what this will do is you could turn on specific sounds that may occur in your environment, and the iPhone is going to pick it up. So like if you have a cat, if you had a dog, if the cat meows, the dog barks, it'll hear it, and it'll actually put a message on the iPhone to tell you that occurred. Any household items, a baby crying, sirens, smoke and fire, if you hear a smoke alarm. So it's implied for someone who's hearing impaired that it would display on the iPhone, but I think it's a really cool feature that anybody could utilize if you wanted to be make sure to be told that these things are occurring. So it's called sound recognition. and you just go back. I said you go into accessibility and go down to hearing, and then it's the sound recognition is turned on, and you can set it to any of those settings that you want as far as sounds. You don't have to have them all. You can turn some or all. It's your choice. So, okay. And you have any other questions? I know I'm there right at the end of my time here. All right, sounds great. Let me stop sharing, and I appreciate your attention. I hope you enjoyed what I provided, and be sure to check out my podcast, intouchwithios.com, and In Touch with iOS. And yes, and then thank you very much.
One real quick question, and I'm
Yes.
curious: have you played with sound recognition at all? And the only reason I'm asking is because if you enable sound recognition, it does alter Hey Siri. So if you're a big fan of Hey Siri, I think it either disables it or I just set it off on my own. But
yeah,
so,
you shouldn't say "Hey, yes, lady."
Yeah, right. So you just I think people need to be aware of that.
Okay. Yeah, I had not tried it. I thought it wasn't. It had altered it. So okay. Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Dave. We appreciate all that information and those updates. And just as Dave specified, make sure that Apple just put out just recently, about past 2 or 3 weeks, right, Dave? They put
14.4.
Yeah, they put out updates for iOS, basically almost everything. And a lot of those updates were actually security updates. So please make sure that you update your watches, your iPads, and a lot of the computers have updates too. So make sure that you do those. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I appreciate, Dave, all that information that you gave and those products that you shared. There was some actually, and you guys know how I am about the money thing. There's some good values that Dave brought up that were reasonable, reasonably priced, I should say. Okay, at this time, I'm going to introduce our next presenter, Christopher Lawley, excuse me. Chris is a YouTuber extraordinaire, we'll say, and podcaster with a focus on iPad and iOS and productivity. He likes to help people, take advantage of the devices and where they are and become more productive. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Chris to talk to us about iPad. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I've been an iPad user. Well, let me back up. I started with the original iPad, but for the last 4 or 5 years now, the iPad has been my main computer. I've been using it for everything. I previously had IT jobs that I was using it for. Now I'm a full-time YouTuber. And the biggest reason why I kind of use it as my main computer is I like it. It's I've used a lot of computers in my life. I've built computers, and the iPad has definitely been my favorite computer. It's a young operating system. I know the iPad has always kind of been based off iOS, starting at iOS 3.4. If I remember correctly. Actually, it was called iPhone OS at the time. But iPad OS didn't really come around until version 13. And since then, like it's still been growing. Like there's still a lot of things that it's getting, and personally, I find that really exciting. I find the app ecosystem to be really interesting. There's constantly new apps coming out all the time that can really do really interesting things. One thing, I think my video just stopped. Did my video not come up?
No.
There we go.
Back up now.
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. So, app ecosystem is really exciting. I mean, kind of one of the apps that originally got me, interested in working off the iPad and stuff like that was an app called Workflow, which was a way to build custom automations on iPhone and iPad and stuff like that. Apple bought it out a few years ago, and it's now Shortcuts. You may have seen that application on your iPhone and iPad. And that has just kind of been a really interesting way of using a computer to me. Yeah, the Mac has Automator and Linux has, well, all the Linuxy stuff. But the iPad, at the end of the day, I think is a lot more accessible to a lot of people. So that's kind of always been interesting as a YouTuber that talks about computers. The other reason why I like using the iPad is it's a modular computer. 1 minute, it's a tablet. The next, it's a notebook with the Apple Pencil. Then you can put it in the Magic Keyboard case, and then it's a laptop, and then plug it into a monitor, and now you have a desktop computer. So it's a really interesting use case for that. And I can kind of go into, let me see if I could share my screen here. Zoom, share. It's going to probably go black here for a second. Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so there's a few things I use my iPad for. The biggest, as being a YouTuber, I do video editing. So I use this app right here called LumaFusion to edit all my videos, and I can show you guys a quick edit of something that I put together. I don't think I have anything too complex on here right now. But this right here, it's a non-linear, non-destructive video editing application that it's not as complex as something like Premiere Pro or Avid or something like that. But I've edited almost all of my YouTube videos. Every other than like, I think it was like the first 10 videos were edited with Premiere Pro. Then after that, everything has been edited with LumaFusion here. So what's really cool about this is you could do all the, basic things like cut things up, audio correction. But like if you double tap on a clip here, you can come in here, you can change the frame and the fit. So like, sometimes what I'll do is if I need to make a cut or something like that, I have some templates in here that I've saved so I can kind of cut in and bring things wider. There's speed ramping options, volume controls, effects like color correction. So I shoot my videos in what's called log. So it's kind of a very neutral color profile. And then I will come in and color correct and color grade. So you get like a nice clean finish to these videos and stuff like that. So they look a bit more professional. And LumaFusion has just been a great app to do video editing in. I've been using it for a while now. You can key out things. So one thing that I do, and here I'll bring up another app here really quick, is called Mojo, if I could spell correctly. So Mojo is one of these apps that's kind of meant for the Instagram story crowd. And what I did was I made these templates right here for text, put this bright orange background in the back, and then just kind of would come in here, make things. Oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Trying to do too many things at once here. And you can use these templates right here to make just kind of like interesting titles. Then what I could do is bring them into LumaFusion. And I just use the green screen option right here, and I'll just key out this orange, and all you're left with is a title. So it's kind of a nice way to make animated titles really quickly. I used to be an After Effects user for years and stuff like that, and there's no way I could have made this animated title in After Effects as quickly as I made it on the iPad here. Another thing I do is photo editing. I do all my photo editing in Lightroom, mostly just because I'm used to it. I've bought a lot of presets and stuff over the years. Let me see here. I'll scroll down to some images that are actually interesting to people. Here's one of my favorite photos right here. I took this in Yosemite. This is what's called tunnel view. So you have El Cap right here, Half Dome right there, the valley right down there. And I just edit these in Lightroom right here. If you long press on it, you can see the original right here, the edited version. And you have all sorts of like color and editing options and stuff. So you can go in here, you can do mess with the color mix and things like that, shift colors, do all sorts of really interesting things. There are a lot of photo editing apps on the iPad. There's Photoshop too, but I like Lightroom because it's more focused on not necessarily putting elements together, but editing a still photo, which is what I'm personally interested in. Let me see here. Let me go home. Then the app, literally, I was just working on before I jumped in the call here, is Ferrite here. So Ferrite is what I use to edit podcasts and do all sorts of, audio editing and things like that. So let me bring up a project here. So you can see here, I have 3 tracks, and all these are just locally recorded audio tracks for podcasts. Bring them in, cut them all up, then you can listen through the podcast and do all sorts of things. So basically my whole creative workflow between video editing, photo editing, and podcast editing happens right here on the iPad. It's something that I personally really think is a great creative tool for a lot of people, and it can bring not necessarily a new life, but more accessibility as opposed to something like Avid or Pro Tools or something on the Mac. Ferrite is pretty easy to learn. Lightroom, pretty easy to learn. LumaFusion's pretty easy to learn. But I mentioned a little bit ago about workflow and now what is called shortcuts. And I'll jump in here. So this is the Shortcuts app. And this is a way to essentially create automations and stuff for the iPad. I have quite a few in here. And look, I'm at 128. I usually try to keep them around 100 because the app can become a bit unwieldy when you have a lot. I have a few friends, one of which that used to work on the Shortcuts team that has well over 1,000. And I'm just like, yeah, that's too much. I can never find anything. So what's really cool about this is you could do really interesting things. So I'll bring up this one right here, new Fantastical event. So Fantastical is my calendar app. What's really cool about Fantastical is it has natural language input. So what I do is I use this shortcut to input task or calendar events into my calendar. So if we run this right here, it asks for an event. So I could say get pizza at 7 p.m. Cannot type today for some reason. And what that'll do is that'll create a calendar event, and I'll bring in Fantastical here and slide over. And right there, we have an event for get pizza at 7 p.m. on my calendar. And we could have made it a little more complex. We could have put a specific location or who we're meeting with and stuff like that. But I kept it pretty simple. So shortcuts are a fast way of adding text. Now, when you comes to running shortcuts, there's a few different ways to do it. Yeah, you can open up the app here and tap on something and just run it. But personally, one of my favorite ways is to do search. So you can hit Command Space on a keyboard or pull down on the home screen to bring up search. And you could just type in a shortcut name. Now, what you could do instead is in settings, keyboard, text replacement, you could set up text replacements to fill in bigger words. So one thing that I do is I do a lot of time tracking, as you can see right back behind here. So if I type in TT and then space, it fills in time tracking, brings up that shortcut, and I can just hit enter, and it will run this shortcut. I'm going to go ahead and stop it because I don't want to mess up my time tracking. But Shortcuts does a really great job of providing basically an automation layer to the iPhone and iPad that without it, it necessarily wouldn't have. And I think this is really important when people start to get really into computers and stuff like that. That automation is a big step because I automate a lot of my work. So let me see here. One thing that I do whenever I start a new video project is I run this shortcut right here. It asks for some text right here. And this is a bit more of a complicated shortcut right here. So I'll kind of walk you guys through it. And each block right here is a step. So it starts off by asking for text. What is the video project name? And then it creates a project in my time tracking app, which is Timery. And then it takes that name right here and puts this provided input right here. So I can reveal this action right there. And it creates a project from it. Let me close that. And then it runs what's called a X callback URL. Now, X callback URLs are a bit more complex, but basically it's a way to take content and push it to one app without necessarily being in that app. So what it does is it will create that project, And then right here, we have this text block right here. So these are all the tasks that will end up being in this project right here. So you can see write outline, film, all the way up to release. It will then split that text by new line. So basically what that does is it takes all of these items and then it'll repeat with each item right here, running this URL, which creates a task for this that puts it in this project. So it's kind of a more complex step, but this saves me so much time. I don't have to create a new Timery project. I don't have to create a new things project. I don't have to create new tasks. So it saves me a lot of time. And that one was a bit more complex. We can go into, let's see here, new draft. So I use an app, this app right here called Drafts. Drafts is a text editor, but it does a lot of really cool things because you can use it for automations and sending to other apps and things like that. So what I do with this one, and this one's a lot more simple, is it asks for text and then it will create a new draft from this. So if I was to run this right here, now it's taking a second for some reason, not sure why. Okay, don't think it's going to want to run. Unfortunately, I do have the beta version of iPad OS installed on this iPad, so that's probably why things are messing up. I had to install it for a particular bug. Let's see here, let's try it again. Okay, so that one's not going to want to run.
Chris, we actually have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Are you using something other than shortcuts to show what you can do with shortcuts? Because you're just using everything that you're using is just stock apps, correct?
No, a lot of these are third-party apps. So Drafts is
third-party apps. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yes, you can absolutely use stock apps. Let me see here what I got. I do use a lot of third-party apps. Okay, here's a really interesting one. So this one has no stock apps in it whatsoever. This is probably one of the most complex shortcuts I've ever made, but it's a daily journal shortcut. So what this does is in fact, I'll just run it and I'll show you. So this will create a template. Whenever you run it, looks like this one's not going to want to run either. I apologize.
That's okay. Let me ask Joe Tate to go ahead and unmute and ask your question directly, Joe. Because the one thing I will say, Chris, is that you are using an iPad. You actually have a mouse on it, correct? Because of the way.
Yes. So I'm using the Magic Trackpad with it right now, so you can see my cursor and what I'm tapping on.
Right, and you're using Zoom, so you basically, okay. So go ahead, Joe, and unmute and ask your question. I just want to make sure it gets clarified for you.
If I have an iPad and I go to shortcuts, I don't see what I'm seeing, what you are showing. So I was wondering if you had an app that is using shortcuts, but not shortcuts.
So I guess I should back up here really quick. Each one of these is a shortcut. Each one of these I've either made or gotten from somebody. If you're looking for some resources to get shortcuts going, you can go my website. It's theUntitledSite.com. And you can go to the shortcuts button right here. I have a whole gallery of shortcuts you could download. I do have some that work with the first-party Apple apps, not necessarily always third-party apps. So here's some that work with the first-party calendar and reminder apps. Drafts, Fantastical, Photos, a couple of utilities, Apple Music. So I do have a few there that you can play around with if you want. But basically, each one of these I've made or I've either gotten from someplace. So how about I just walk you through making one? So if you want to make a shortcut, you hit this plus button right up here at the top, and you get put into this view. We can make the one that I ran a little earlier about the calendar event. So what we want is, the first thing we want is the action called ask for input. And so what it's going to do is it's going to ask for right here text, and we could change this to be different things, where it could be a number, URL, date, time, or date and time. but we're going to do the prompt of new calendar event, question mark. Now, a lot of these actions right down here, you can hit the show more button, and like in this particular instance, you can give a default answer, but I'm going to leave that blank. Then what we'll do is, instead of using Fantastic, I'll use calendar. So you can just search right over here in the side, calendar, new calendar event. And up here, we need to fill these options in. So we're going to take the text from this action. So when it asks for a text and we put in the calendar event, we're going to put it right here. So we're going to tap right there. And I'm going to use this button right here. This is called the magic wand right down here. And it puts us in this view. And so this gives us the option to use what's called magic variables. Magic variables are essentially a way to pull content from one action to another. So I'm going to just go ahead and tap on provided input, and that's going to fill that in right there. Now it's going to ask for times. Well, we don't provide times right here. So what I can do is I can tap in here, and right down here, instead of hitting the magic wand, there are these default variables down here. We can hit ask for each time. And so now if we were to run this, it's going to ask for what the calendar event is going to be, if it's going to run. And of course, it's not going to. Let's see here. Nope. I apologize. I had this whole thing working last night, and now it's not. Now it's not working.
That's okay.
But basically, what would have happened is it would have asked for text. We would have typed in the event name, and then it would have asked us for a start date. We could provide a start date and time, then an end date and time. And then it would have added that to our calendar. So instead of having to open up calendar, fiddle with all that stuff, this would have been a quicker way of entering those. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Now, one of my favorite things is music. I love, just listen to music. So I have a few shortcuts that do music related things. So this one right here, this one right here is probably one of my favorites. What it'll do, and I can't play it because if I start it, it's going to cut off my audio because the iPad and iOS doesn't support multi-stream audio. But what you could do here when you run this is it will go through, find all of your music, get a random item from your music, and then play the entire album that one track is from. So it's kind of a nice way to rediscover music that might be in your library that you haven't listened to in a really long time. I really enjoy that. Let's see here. Okay. The other, I guess this would actually probably be my favorite shortcut right here, is what's called, uses my clipboard manager. So this uses an app called Data Jar, and Data Jar is a free app you can get. And this is one of those shortcuts that's on my website if you want to download. But basically, it checks to see if there is any sort of, here, I'll show you, Data Jar. So in here, you have these kind of areas. I'm trying to think of a good word, but basically, this is a list right here. So it checks to see if this clipboard list is there. If it isn't, so it uses ones and zeros, so on, off, or binary. If it isn't, it's zero, so that means it doesn't exist. It will create that whole list right there. But if that list does exist, it'll do nothing. So it uses this if statement right here. From there, you can either add an item to the clipboard or get an item from clipboard. And let me see if this one will run, because I hope this one will. Man, these are not wanting to work today. I apologize. This whole demo is not going the way I planned.
Well, I'm sure, Chris, you had other things to show besides shortcuts, right? Because
yeah. I just let's see.
Because shortcuts can be its own thing by itself, so I don't want you to just stay on just on shortcuts. So.
Okay, let's see here. Yep, not looking. Okay, all right. Well, one last thing I will cover in shortcuts. You don't have to manually run them. There's this automation button over here. So you could set up shortcuts to run on specific things. So there's times of day, when your alarm stopped, when you arrive, leave, or before commute, receive an email or a message, connect to a certain Wi-Fi or Bluetooth device, open an app, enable airplane mode or do not disturb, or even like when your device hits a certain battery level or is plugged into a charger. So that is kind of nice that you don't have to manually run them every single time. There is the automation option as well.
Hey, Chris, can I just ask you a question real quick? I think
absolutely.
If you could just go back into shortcuts really quickly, and I just want to say this for everyone, if you're not really familiar with shortcuts, one of the other best places to start is the gallery area.
Yes.
That has a lot of pre-built and community-based shortcuts that are already available. So if you're looking for some to kind of start in and, kind of dip your toe into the water of shortcuts, that's a great place to begin, as well as your site as well, because you've got so many on there that they can download.
Yes, yeah. I forget about the gallery, and the sad thing is I'm friends with the guy who built it, so I always have to apologize to him. There's a lot of really cool things in here. A whole bunch of different categories you can go through. Just a lot of really neat stuff. I mean, even things like just converting photos to a GIF. One other thing that has been really cool about the iPad lately is widgets. So we've gotten widget support. Well, we got widgets on the home screen support in iOS 13, but in iOS and iPadOS 14, they got a whole big revamp. So one of the really cool things now is we can stack them. So you can swipe through and kind of actually get multiple widgets stacked on top of each other. So like this one right here is my weather widget and stack. I'm not going to swipe through because it will give my home address on the other side of that one. This one's my time tracking one. So I can see kind of what I've worked on today and like what current thing is running. Here is kind of my task. So I can kind of just see what is in my business project, what's in my video projects, and what I need to do today. I use an app called Things for this. Things is a third-party task manager that I absolutely love. The biggest reason why is it supports awesome keyboard shortcuts. You can navigate pretty much the whole app through keyboard shortcuts. Then over here, my calendar. So I use Fantastical, this app right here. Is a great third-party app. And I do talk a lot about third-party apps and stuff, mostly because I find what they do to be very interesting. This one right here, I don't have anything here to show you, but it's delivery. So I put any upcoming packages and anything that's being delivered, I will put in deliveries. So that way I can kind of see when it's being, delivered. This one's right here called TV Tracker. It'll show you the next episode of when something you want to watch is going to air. It looks like WandaVision is next up, and that's like a week away still. And then this one is Game Tracker, and it's not reloading correctly, but it'll show you like when a game that you want to play is coming out, show you how many days away it is. And usually it shows an icon, but for some reason that's not loading. And then down here is the battery widget, which is really nice to kind of be able to see when you have multiple different devices and stuff connected, how and where their battery levels are, especially when it comes to like AirPods, because there is no screen on AirPods to tell you, what their battery level is. I should probably, oops. Didn't mean to do that. Are there any questions? Sorry, I've been out of Zoom, so I can't see the chat.
Oh, that's okay. I'm asking questions for you. It's not a problem. Let's see here, because I know we've been answering some of the questions for you in the chat because individuals wanted to know your website. We gave them that. There was a question about Luma versus iMovie. Which one is better?
Okay. So I personally haven't used iMovie in a really long time, and that's because LumaFusion is a multi-track video editor. iMovie is you have a single track and you can put like music or a title or something there, but you have a single track of video. LumaFusion, you could do up to 6 tracks of video and 6 tracks of audio. So you can do all sorts of really cool things by cutting things together, like I was saying, overlaying titles and stuff like that and keying things out. You can crop things in. So if you want to have like a 2-person interview, you can put and you have like them filmed with two separate videos, you can crop, the left side in and the right side in and put them side by side so you can see them both at the same time. Overall, LumaFusion, I'm sorry?
Chris, let me ask this question. Now you're talking about all those things you can do on Luma Video. Can you do those on any iPad?
Yeah, I have, it's far out of reach, but I have on loan from Apple, 8th generation iPad, and I edited videos on that just fine, like no problem. So you don't necessarily need an iPad Pro. I don't think you probably can't use the original. In fact, I know you can't use the original iPad, but a modern iPad, yeah, absolutely.
That's really good. One thing, let's see here. One thing that I was thinking about is, as far as using the iPad versus a computer, the nice thing is when you buy software on a computer, you got it and you can use it forever. Now, there have been those times when things have started to be removed from the store. Have you ever encountered that, where a piece of software has been removed from the store and now you can no longer use it, right?
Yeah, every once in a while you'll get something like that. It gets pulled. The one thing I will say, and here I'll share my screen again. You can always go into, let me start broadcast. It's going to turn off for a second. Okay, so one thing you could do with the App Store is you can always come up here and then go into purchased, and you can still download your previously purchased or downloaded apps if you want to. Now, even if they're pulled from the App Store, but I will say if they're pulled from the App Store, they won't be updated anymore. So there may be a end of life for them. There may be like an iOS version that comes out and kills them, or they may no longer. I think I lost you guys.
Yeah,
Did I lose you?
We can still hear you.
Okay, there we go. That was weird. Everything went black for a second, and I don't know what happened. But you can still download them, but there may be an end of life where it comes like, hey, this app is no longer supported on new hardware or such and such iOS version. And I mean, technically, like Mac software, that can happen with that too. I saw the other day, it looks like a call recorder will not be updated for the new M1 Max. And call recorder is something that I know a lot of my friends use for podcast recordings and recording the Skype audio track. So they have that backup audio recording just in case something happens.
That is very sad. I'm a podcaster.
Well,
yeah.
And I understand what you're saying, Chris. The one thing what I'm looking at is like when I download something to my Mac, I got it and it can't be removed, especially if I download it from a website. Okay. Now, when you're using the iPad, everything comes from the App Store. You have no way of actually putting something on the computer, on the iPad, except that's where the only thing that I'm seeing is a possible minor downfall. But we also know that there's normally, for most apps, that if something is end of life, there's 2 or 3 more out there that are just as good or not better.
Yeah. Yeah, I speaking of like call recorder, I mean, like I use Audio Hijack instead of call recorder. So like there's always an alternative. Having the App Store as its only distribution platform for software for the iPad is a bit of a bummer. But also I do see the benefits of it. It's kind of like a catch-22, I guess. There are benefits, whereas you're not having to deal with people putting malicious software on the App Store. You have true sandboxing that way, basically meaning, if I download a game or something, there's no way it can access like my bank app, or like if I visit my bank website on my iPad, it can't get that information. Whereas like if you install software on your Mac and it's malicious software, I worked in IT for 10 years. There's malicious software can do a lot of scary things, like read everything you type, keystrokes, record what's on your camera, turn on the mic. Like it can do really malicious software. I mean, like I spent 10 years fighting against malicious software, and so I see the benefits of it, but it's also a bit of a bummer.
And that's a very valid point, because when you look at the bad things that can happen on the Mac side, where you can download anything, you're right. Sandboxing is a lot better.
Yeah. And I know for a lot of app developers, they get frustrated with sandboxing and stuff, especially on the Mac, because it wasn't always there. I know, and then there are some applications and stuff that try and get accessibility privileges. Dropbox is probably one of the biggest offenders of this. Is they will try when you install it, and they will constantly pester you about it to give them accessibility rights, so that way they can kind of get around the sandboxing.
Okay. It looks like we've answered, I believe, all of the questions we had here in the chat. If you want to go ahead and continue.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay. The share screen thing on Zoom with an iPad is always worrying because everything goes black and it's just it's a little scary. Okay, so one of my favorite things here is Files. Files is basically the Finder equivalent on the iPad. And there's a lot of really cool things in here, mostly with this button right up here. So if you hit this, one thing a lot of people don't know is there is a document scanner right in Files. And I can't really show you it because my iPad's plugged into everything. And if I moved it, it would not be good. But you can play around with this. It's also in the iPhone Files as well. You can scan documents. So if you need to get a digital version of a physical document, it's right there. But one of my favorite things is connect to server. This allows me to connect to my Mac Mini. So I do have a Mac Mini, but I don't use it every day. It is a file server and an automation server for me. So what I can do is I can use, you can put in the server name or anything like that, and you can get this from system preferences on the Mac, sharing, and then at the top there, it'll tell you your name. So mine is oracle.local, and I can connect to this. Hopefully it's on right now because I turned it off the other day. Oh, yep, look, okay. So these are the shared folders I have on my file server. So I have an archive right here of all videos and stuff like that. So basically I can put up a video that I am done with on my Mac Mini and store it as a file. So that way it is not taking up space on my iPad, because you are very limited on space when it comes to an iPad. I did buy the 1 terabyte iPad Pro because I do video editing and stuff like that. But 1 terabyte gets eaten up really quickly when it comes to video editing. So I use this Mac Mini here to kind of store old projects. So that way I don't have to keep that on my iPad. And you can just use the shared folders and stuff that are in the Mac to kind of access this. So that's kind of nice. One cool thing here is, so Files is more than just like a way to access iCloud Drive or even other Macs. You can use it to access like Dropbox and stuff like that. So if you hit this button right here, edit sidebar, you can enable and disable other third-party apps. Personally, I don't use Dropbox. I don't think it works very well on the iPad. I'm a little disappointed in its performance, so I moved everything to iCloud Drive. But the third-party app I use is Working Copy, and that is a Git client. For basically, I use it to manage. I have 2 websites that I manage through that. Essentially, it's a little complex, so I won't get into all that. But yeah, Files, really cool utility if you need it. Let's see here. What was next? Oh, the other thing. Multitasking is kind of a really important thing. You might have seen me do it a little bit already, but multitasking is pretty important when it comes to like using an iPad. So when you have an app up like this, you can bring up the dock by flicking up from the bottom of the screen using your finger. I just did it, and I was expecting everyone to see what I could do. I don't know why I did that, but what you can do is you can drag and drop an app. And so I'll do shortcuts here. So you can drag shortcuts. And if I was to release it when it's kind of narrow like this, it's going to go into what's called slide over. So basically I have a narrow instance of this app that I can interact with and do things with. This uses basically the iPhone UI. But what you could do is you could drag it over to the corner here, and it kind of it grays out the other app window, and you can do it on the left or the right side. and you'll put it in split view. And split view is basically a great way to have two apps open at the same time so you can reference information back and forth or work in both apps or do whatever you need to do. But the other nice thing that you can do is when dragging an app, you can push it all the way up to the top. And when it gets big like that, you can release it and it takes over whatever app you're using. So if you had split view back here, so if we had Safari, and I'll put another Safari instance in there, it will just take over everything. Let's see here. So yeah, multitasking, really nice, really important, really handy to have. Let's see here. Are there any more questions?
There is a question about backing up your iPad. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is actually something I'm really disappointed in. And there's not really a good way to do it other than through iCloud. So if you do iCloud, you can do iCloud backups here. And it backs up an image of the iPad. And what I don't like about this is the only way to restore something is to restore the whole image. So you have to wipe your iPad and then restore it from that backup to recover anything. So one thing that I would very much like to see, and I've kind of made a lot of noise about this, is I would like to see Time Machine for the iPad. So I can restore individual files. Now, you can go to iCloud's website and restore individual files, but that's only up to 30 days. 30 days, I believe. So that's not really a true backup. And I don't even really think this is a true backup. So I'm kind of playing with fire. If I work with work on a big project or something like that, I will archive like the footage and stuff for that on my Mac Mini temporarily while I'm working on that. So in case something were to happen to this iPad, I would still have a copy of that footage someplace else.
Do you actually use iMazing by chance, Chris?
iMazing. I'm not sure I know what that is.
Okay. It's a independent third-party software that runs on the Mac to actually back up the iOS devices. It's I love the software, but I'm just thinking about, in this case, how it would actually work, especially with your workflow. I was kind of
and I haven't looked into anything like that. So I've been all in on the iPad for like 4 or 5 years now. I haven't had a Mac for years. And I just picked up one of the new M1 Mac Minis just because it was interesting, and my old file server was kind of getting old on me. So I was like, I need something new. So I will check that out. But one thing I will say, like, in order for, and this is the IT person in me, in order for it to be a true backup, you can't manually interact with it. It needs to happen automatically in the background, because if you're having to manually interact with it, that you're going to forget. Like, exactly. Let's be honest, like, or just not want to do it, which that would totally be my case.
And that's what iMazing does. And by the way, I'll send you a discount code too.
Oh, nice.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out. But yeah, I do really want to see Apple do some kind of time machine for the iPad, even if it wasn't like what would be my ultimate dream is, hey, let me use my Mac Mini as the time machine target. So that way, like, the files and stuff on my iPad get automatically backed up to that Mac Mini. So that way I don't have to plug in an external drive. Because external drives aren't fun to deal with. I've been a video editor for years. I've edited off external drives. They aren't fun. Were there any other questions?
Let's
see here. Okay. So I'm kind of, is there anything in particular you all would like to see? I'm kind of adding in for my notes. I apologize. I talked a lot faster than what I thought I was going to talk. Oh, my screen stopped. Let's see here. Let me pull up the chat.
We've actually been answering questions there. By the way, Joseph, that was iMazing. There's actually a discount code in the community for that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I personally I guess I'll just wrap up by saying I really enjoy the iPad. It's a fun computer. If you haven't given it a shot in a while, pick one up. Like that it's a really great computer to work from. I don't know why my video keeps stopping. That's really weird. I apologize. The I am on a beta version of iPad OS, so that's probably why I'm having all these weird issues. The USB-C port, so fun fact, the USB-C port stopped working on my iPad, so I had to install a beta version in order to get that to fix again. So I just had all sorts of weird issues this last week. But yeah, no, the iPad, it's a fun computer. I really like it. And then you get accessories like the Magic Keyboard, which was probably like my favorite tech thing to come out of last year. I just saw somebody ask.
Somebody asked a question. Do you recommend a good text editor on iPage? Nancy, you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question directly to Chris?
Oh, iPad. Oh, yes. Okay, so text editors. Woo, yes. Okay, so Drafts is probably my favorite text editor. But the thing that I think a lot of people don't like about it is it doesn't interact with the Files app that easily. So if you have something that you have like a lot of markdown files or text files or something like that, there's an app called Pretext. And basically it works with the Files app, so you can open up any text documents from your Mac or whatever, and then edit them and then save them right back into the Files app. But Drafts is really great if you're kind of all in on the Apple ecosystem, because there's an iPhone, iPad, and Mac app.
Okay.
George, can I jump in here just for a second?
Sure, no problem.
First of all, Chris, if I don't get a chance to say this, thank you so much for today. I just wanted to say that formally.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing that I love about what you're talking about is you are a really good sort of living example of someone who's all in on a device that I think has been traditionally thought of as a consumption device, and you're really making it your go-to device for productivity, for video editing, for text work. So I think that's really awesome. I think that the one thing that I love about what you do is you've automated so much of this through a lot of the applications that are either very compatible or the core Apple apps. So I wanted to say that for the record that, and for anyone who's in this meeting, go out and check out Chris's YouTube channel. It is an absolutely amazing deep dive into a lot of the stuff that, again, you can pause and rewind that kind of stuff. But if you really want a good sense of what you're doing, Chris, go to I can't recommend your channel enough.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the nice thing about having a YouTube channel is you get the ability to edit yourself. So I can, as opposed to doing a live talk, I don't talk as fast, and I'm not as, most videos are more focused. So if you're curious about a particular topic or something like that, you can find a particular video there that way. Or particular topic about a video. Wow, I am stumbling all over my words today.
Oh, that's okay.
Other questions? I'm kind of out of everything in my notes. I apologize. I talked really fast.
How are you liking your AirPods Pro Max? I noticed you're wearing.
Oh, they're really nice. I'm kind of a headphone snob. So I'm
right there with you.
Yeah, and they're probably the most comfortable headphones that I've ever had. Like the cushions are really nice. I don't want to take them off because they'll do the disconnect thing automatically, but they're really nice. The transparency mode's good. The noise canceling is excellent. I for some reason they have a Gardner that just comes at like the worst times whenever I'm trying to work or something, so I can easily just put it in noise canceling mode and block out all that noise. But yeah, definitely really great headphones. Really like them. Incredibly expensive. That I don't think anyone would normally spend that kind of money on headphones, but I am a headphone snob, and let's see here. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is stopped again. the iPad is not, like I said, actually at the beginning of my thing, the iPad isn't just a touch device. You could pair a mouse and a keyboard with it too. So it's not just a tablet. You absolutely can treat it as a desktop or laptop computer. And like I was kind of mentioning, I think of it as a modular computer. I can pull it off the Magic Keyboard. I can plug it into a monitor. I can use the Apple Pencil to make a notebook out of it. That's really nice.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't want to veer you too much off topic, but there was one thing about Things 3 that I think is really important. If you could just really quickly for the group demonstrate the URL functionality in Things 3 where you can actually link a document and link. I will tell you, as someone who uses Things 3, that is so incredibly powerful and so underutilized. So, and you can even do it from Things 3 with the shortcut on the iPad.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really nice about Things, wow, I always do that. I do not mean to do that. So let me see here. So, okay, so I got our email right here. So I'll use this guy right here. So this is an app called Spark. And what's cool about Spark is you can hit this button down here and you can send emails and stuff to different apps. So I can send it to Things right here, create a task out of it. And then what's cool is I can tap on this and it has the email in here. But more importantly, right down here is this has the X callback URL that I can tap on and open right back up into that email. So if I had that email filed away, I can quickly open it right back in Spark, and then I can reply to it or grab information from it or whatever I need. Like I did that, so I had all the meeting codes and stuff for this. So that is one of those things that gets overlooked. That's really nice.
Okay, now I'm going to be like, okay, show that again because I'm sure some people didn't get that, but of course they can also rewind the video.
Sure. So basically, different apps, and I'm using Spark here as an example, allow you to use what's called an X callback URL. So when you are basically have an email open, and in Spark, you'll see you hit this 3-dot menu on an email. You can pick Things, Files, or you can hit Add Service and pick from something else. All these different apps right here. We'll select Things, and this will create a new task. And since this one's already open, I'm gonna clear this out so that way. Okay, so we'll save it as a task, and then you tap on it, and then you have this note section right here with the email in it. This part I don't necessarily care about, but you want this URL right down here. And so see how it says Readle Spark : / / It's not like a typical web URL. That's what's called an X callback URL. So instead of going to a website, this opens right back up into an app. So if you were to tap this, it opens that email up.
Okay.
And that works throughout the operating system. Yeah. So
yes,
if you're in
different
Safari
apps,
or and that's a really critical function. So, when you think about the iPad as a workflow device, that one little feature in that software, it literally brings everything into it. It's an amazing feature. I wish iCloud did it better natively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The ability to have apps kind of interwork with each other is such a crucial thing. And like I was kind of talking about earlier, like there's sandboxing, but there's ways for apps to still work together. Even though they're sandboxed and separate, they could still send information back and forth. And shortcuts is a key part of that. X callback URLs are a key part of that. So it starts to get a bit confusing. I totally understand, but it is a nice thing. Like if you have a minute to kind of like read up on, it will dramatically speed up your iOS or iPad workflow.
Okay. I'm going to do some rapid fire questions here with you, Chris, because one thing is some of your apps that you're not using that stock Apple apps, which are fine, but here's the question. What are you using? I noticed instead of using Calendar, you're using Fantastical. So for email, you're using Spark, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And are you using a different, instead of Pages? Are you using Pages or do you use something different?
Not really. I don't really have like documents that I need to work on like that. I mostly do text editors, so I'll use drafts, and then in drafts I'll use the automations to like export as rich text or something like that. Mostly because I've always just preferred writing in plain text or Markdown, just because I find it faster than writing in something like Pages.
No problem. And are you using a different presentation program other than Keynote?
I don't really do a whole lot of presentations. I mean, if I do, it's usually a video. Like it's usually like I'll film a video and be like, here you go, because I'm a video guy.
Okay, you're a video guy.
But I do use Keynote. I just made a video this week about using Keynote as a design tool, and I used it here. I can share my screen and show you guys. But basically, I used it to create a daily and weekly kind of a planner, essentially. So let's see here, Keynote. So well, here, I'll go back. So what I did is I created these guys right here. It's just a single, I don't even know what they call this, slide. And basically I just created this right here as kind of a daily planner. And then you can export things as images or PDFs or whatever you want. It's actually it worked really well. Keynote is a really good design tool if you're not a designer, and I'm not a designer at all. Like I can't design anything to save my life. But yeah, I made this really quickly in like maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. Now when I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, well, there's numbers that you could have used. So I'm taking it you don't use numbers, right?
I mostly did I did it in Keynote because I knew Keynote was a bit more designy, and like I wanted to use that with the Apple Pencil. Oh, it stopped again. What the heck? That's weird. But yeah, no, so I wanted it to be a more designy thing, exported as a PDF to use with the Apple Pencil. Numbers is great as a spreadsheet utility and stuff. I will say I just know Excel better, mostly just from my IT days, that I know like the ins and outs of Excel. So it's kind of weird. Like I don't like PowerPoint. I think Keynote's better there, but I think Excel is better than numbers.
I don't
mishmap. Yeah, it's a weird mishmap.
Excel is definitely better when it comes to doing calculations. And we know you use Luma Fusion. We definitely saw that, and I was really shocked at everything you were able to do with that program versus using iMovie. So I think that was all of the questions that I actually had. We actually got some other people are saying they love Spark too.
Yeah, that's a good app. And if I remember correctly, I think it's free, and then you just pay if you want the collaboration stuff, if I remember correctly. But it's been a while, so
that's right. And Reed'll make some great products. They make some great apps.
Yeah, they're a good company to work with. They're really nice.
Now, I have a question about adding storage to the iPad. What are the things you use to do that?
You can't, unfortunately. So the iPad is a solid device, like whatever storage you buy your iPad at. So like when I bought my iPad Pro, I got it at the 1 terabyte. I bought as much as I possibly can because I do video editing. You can use external drives, but a lot of things like Luma Fusion doesn't work with external drives. So like if I have video clips on there, I can't edit from the external drive. It has to be on the iPad internally. So usually what I tell people is buy as much possible storage as you can.
Okay, thank you.
That is one huge drawback there. So now here's a question. Could you actually edit I'm going to ask this, and that's probably a no. Can you actually edit something that's on the iCloud, a video file that's on iCloud?
No, so you can add a clip, but what it'll do is it'll copy it to the local storage of the iPad.
Okay.
So that is one of the big drawbacks of like if you have one of the base iPads or something like that. They come with 32 gigs of storage, or maybe it's 64 now. I don't even remember. But I think they only go up to 128 gigs. And that's just not a lot when it comes to video editing, especially if you do 4K.
Okay, and I'm going to be that person who asked that question. You mean to tell me even if I get one of those like little devices I can stick into the USB-C or the lightning connector, I still can't edit the video?
Not with Luma Fusion, no. And I think the reason why is because the internal storage of the iPad is so fast, and it has to LumaFusion has to have so much happening, and there's not enough RAM on the iPad to kind of keep all those clips and stuff in memory. So it's relying on that fast internal storage of the iPad to be able to have good, smooth playback. And that is one of the things, like LumaFusion does full-on playback in editing mode without you having to sit there and render anything out, which is awesome.
Okay. All right. So all those of you who have those 128 gig iPads that you want to sell, I'm sure that there are people here at the group who would more than likely take those 128 gig so that you can go get your 1 terabyte.
Yeah, and I mean, not everyone needs 1 terabyte. Like I edited for a long time when I was doing 1080p video off of a 256 gig iPad, and that was fine. It just really depends on what you need. Like I just did a really big, almost 30-minute long video about like iPad tips and tricks, and that video was like 400 gigs. I think that project ended up being. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're going to work on.
And I did notice, like you said, about how fast it renders. That video was just flying.
Yeah, and that's a screen capture, and that's me showing my screen through Zoom, which I mean, I'm sure there was all sorts of glitches and stuff, but yeah.
But it was still, that is really shocking.
Yeah,
well,
no, it's a great application.
Right, and the one thing you also look at is that you get the pencil support and the touch support, which you don't get on a computer.
Yep. Yeah. So the iPad has the benefit of having multiple input devices. You have keyboards, touch, trackpad, mouse, Apple Pencil. It's an interesting device that can be used in lots of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Chris?
I had one. I put it in the chat. I'm just wondering if you have any idea when the iPad's iOS will catch up to the one on the iPhone.
The iPad, so iPad OS and iOS are now different branches of each other. So they run, their versions run in the same. So let me rephrase. So, when iOS 14 comes out, iPad OS 14 comes out, but they are the same base code, but they have different feature sets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things you can do on the iPhone that would be better on the iPad, except the iPad doesn't support it yet.
What do you mean by that?
Well, all of these things I've been listening to, things that were that Dave showed, for example, on the iPhone, that is the iPhone SIG recently, in which you have a rather cramped space to work in on the iPhone.
Well, no.
Just looking at your different widgets, for example.
Might be talking about widgets.
One example.
Okay, well, yeah. If you're talking about widgets, that is the one thing that everybody's kind of upset about, is that the widgets are not equal. But over time, I'm sure Apple will actually gradually go there. But to me, when you look at like the different input devices that you can get those on the iPad. I think the iPad iOS is more forward. They are behind in the widgets game. I definitely agree. Everybody says that. But we also know how Apple is. Give them time, they'll get there. But that's the only
sure. I was just asking if you had any idea what their timetable was.
Well, no.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, Apple doesn't tell us anything.
Right.
I mean, it could be June or September, but I honestly don't know.
But good question though, Susan. But yeah. We all don't know that. We would rather, I agree with you, Chris. I'd rather for them to actually fix the part about the backup.
Yeah. No, there's things that I think need to come first, backups being one of them. But the other thing that I've been kind of screaming about for years now is pro apps on the iPad. So Final Cut, Logic, and Xcode, and maybe even Motion and Compressor. I think it's time for the iPads to get those. I mean, there's a line of the iPad called the iPad Pro. So give me professional apps.
Oh, you're really going there. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's something I've been asking for a while, and may or may not have said that to some Apple people that work at Apple.
Aren't the iPad apps going to work on the Mac?
Yes and no. So technically there's two different ways of doing this. So there's the Catalyst stuff that developers could take iPad apps and run them on the Mac. And then there's the M1 Macs, or Apple's ARM chips, that can run iOS and iPad apps. I played around with a few of these, and I've talked to a lot of developers on why they're not bringing their apps to the Macs that way. The iPad and the iPhone are a touch-first environment. So when you can't have that ability to touch the screen on the Mac, it makes that app's user experience really bad. So I know a couple of apps, Ferrite being one of them. I talked about Ferrite earlier. Like they are working on a Mac version of their apps rather than just porting over their iPad version, because it's built around touch and around the iPad input method, as opposed to just using a mouse and keyboard like a Mac.
I tried LumaFusion on the M1 Mac. The experience is not good.
It was bad. That was one of the first things I tried when I got the Mac Mini, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not acceptable. So I deleted it.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna buy a MacBook. Maybe I just use my Pro, huh? I have a Magic Keyboard. I don't need a laptop then.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't own a traditional laptop. I just have an iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard, and that's my computer.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I want to thank Chris for everything that he's shown us about how you can actually go around and use your iPad for everything and not actually have a computer. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
We appreciate it again. There will be links placed in the community if you didn't get them on the chat here about everything that we have talked about. And just a moment, I'm going to actually go ahead. By the way, don't forget, everyone, that you will be getting a survey after this meeting. Please fill that survey out. We always want your feedback, good or positive or indifferent, or if you have any suggestions for any meetings, or topics that you want us to go over, we want those, of course. By the way, our next upcoming meetings we have the photo SIG on the 17th of February. We also have another meeting this type. Actually, it'll be on February the 20th. Part of the February 20th meeting will be the State of the Union, the state of the organization. We will be presenting at that meeting. I want to thank everyone who attended today. Please don't hesitate to stay around for our afterglow. I'm George Brooks on behalf of all of the board of directors. Have a good, happy